Savannah Chrisley expecting worst ahead of Julie's resentencing. Savannah Chrisley says that she expects the worst when it comes to the possibility of her mom returning home soon. Julie Chrisley will be resentenced next month, and her daughter has remained optimistic that she'll be home for the holidays. However, now Savannah says that she's reeling in that optimism because a lot of things within this legal battle haven't gone their way. Keep reading to see what the Chrisley Knows Best star had to say about the upcoming court date. Savannah Chrisley is trying to manage her expectations. On Tuesday, Savannah opened up about her mom's upcoming resentencing hearing. It was recently ruled that Julie Chrisley would have to appear in person in Atlanta for her court date. The Chrisley matriarch claimed that traveling to Georgia from where she is serving time in Kentucky would cause her undue stress. An Atlanta judge thought otherwise. Now Savannah Chrisley is opening up about how she is trying to manage her expectations going into the big court date. She spoke about it on Tuesday's episode of her Unlocked podcast. "That's the only dreams that I've had recently," Savannah shared with listeners. "It's just her coming home and her being at home to the point that I wake up and I'm kind of disoriented. I'm like, wait, what is happening? Because it feels so real. And I'm trying not to get my hopes up because, let's face it, a lot of things within this legal battle have not gone our way." She added, "So I expect the worst, and anything else that is better than that is a win." Chrisley Knows Best star missed her mom on birthday. There is no doubt Savannah Chrisley's life has changed in a huge way since her parents were sent to prison. She took custody of her younger brother Grayson and niece Chloe. On top of that, she is trying to manage her own businesses and assist in her parents' defense. Savannah has also been upfront about her struggles amid her parents' incarceration. Todd and Julie were always very involved in her life, and Savannah has had a hard time not having them there for special occasions. On August 11, she celebrated her 27th birthday and shared that her mom was always the one to make her birthday special. "It's really hard not having her here," she said. "Holidays suck in general when you have a loved one that is not here with you, whether that person has passed away, or you just don't have the ability to be together on a day-to-day basis or really communicate that well. So it's tough." In 2022, Todd and Julie Chrisley were found guilty of tax evasion and bank fraud. The court sentenced them to 19 years combined in prison. Their sentences started in January 2023 and were reduced last September. Julie's reduced sentence has her out in October 2028, and Todd will see freedom in January 2033. The Chrisley Knows Best couple has continued to maintain their innocence and have appealed the court's rulings. In a recent appeal, it was determined that the original trial judge made a mistake with Julie's sentence. Savannah Chrisley sat on the edge of her bed, her hands trembling slightly as she stared at the email on her phone. It was official. Her mother, Julie Chrisley, was due for resentencing. The ominous words echoed in her mind, filling the room with a suffocating silence. The past year had been a whirlwind of emotions, legal battles, and public scrutiny. But this was different. This was real in a way that shook Savannah to her core. She had always been the strong one, the one who could hold it together for the family. But now, a creeping fear settled in her chest. Julie's future hung in the balance once more, and Savannah couldn't help but expect the worst. As she stood and paced the length of her bedroom, her mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. She thought about the last time she visited her mom in prison. Julie, always the pillar of grace and strength, had put on a brave face, smiling through the glass, assuring Savannah that everything would work out, that they would be together again soon. But behind her mother's calm demeanor, Savannah could see the cracks. Julie's eyes had lost their sparkle, replaced by a weariness that no amount of optimism could mask. Savannah sat down again and buried her face in her hands, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her. Her family had been through so much, and they had fought hard to maintain their dignity in the face of public ridicule and legal chaos. But now, with the resentencing looming, the uncertainty was unbearable. What if the judge was harsher this time? What if her mother's sentence was extended? What if she never came home? The what-ifs swirled around her, each one more terrifying than the last. Savannah had always been a daddy's girl, but in recent years her bond with her mom had grown stronger. Julie had become her confidant, her rock. Losing her to the prison system had been a blow Savannah wasn't prepared for, and she wasn't sure she could survive an even longer separation. She thought about her younger siblings, Grayson and Chloe, and the weight of responsibility she had taken on. She had become a second mother to them, trying to fill the void left by Julie's absence. But no matter how hard she tried, Savannah knew she could never be her mom. Her phone buzzed, and Savannah jumped, her heart racing. She glanced at the screen. Todd Chrisley, her dad, was calling. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she was ready to hear whatever news he had to share. With a deep breath, she answered. "Hey, sweetheart." Todd's voice came through, calm but heavy with the same tension she felt. "Have you heard anything from the lawyers?" "Not yet," Savannah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm scared, Dad. I don't know if I can do this again." There was a pause on the other end, and Savannah could hear Todd take a deep breath. "I know, baby. I know. But we have to stay strong, for your mom, for Grayson, and for Chloe. We have to believe that justice will be served." Savannah wanted to believe him. She wanted to cling to the hope that the justice system would show mercy, that her mother would be home soon, that they could put this nightmare behind them. But the reality of the situation weighed too heavily on her. What if they don't, Dad? What if they decide to make an example out of her? Savannah's voice cracked as she voiced her deepest fear. Todd's silence spoke volumes, and Savannah knew that he had considered the same possibilities. The Chrisley name had become synonymous with scandal, and she feared that the court might view this as an opportunity to make a statement, to prove that no one, no matter how wealthy or famous, was above the law. "We'll cross that bridge when we get there," Todd finally said, his voice steady but lacking the usual bravado that had defined him for so long. "But no matter what happens, we'll get through this. We always do." Savannah closed her eyes, letting his words wash over her, but they did little to calm the storm inside her. She said her goodbyes and hung up the phone, then stared at the empty space where her mother should have been. Resentencing. The word was like a ticking time bomb, and Savannah could feel the countdown in every fiber of her being. She knew she needed to keep it together, to stay strong for her family. But as the days ticked by and the resentencing hearing grew closer, her anxiety only intensified. The media was already circling like vultures, hungry for any scrap of information they could twist into a sensational headline. Every time she left the house, Savannah was bombarded with questions, cameras flashing in her face, microphones shoved under her nose. The public wanted answers, but all Savannah had were more questions. She sighed and walked to the window, looking out at the quiet street below. The world outside seemed so normal, so untouched by the turmoil that had engulfed her family. But for her, normalcy was a distant memory. She felt like she was living in a fishbowl, constantly under scrutiny, her every move analyzed and dissected by strangers who had no idea what it was like to live through this kind of nightmare. Savannah leaned her forehead against the cool glass, closing her eyes as she whispered a prayer. She didn't know what the future held, but she hoped, no, she needed, it to be kinder than the past year had been. She thought of her mom again, of Julie's soft smile and warm hugs, of her laughter filling the room. It was those memories that Savannah clung to, even as the worst-case scenarios threatened to overwhelm her. She needed to believe that her mom would come home, that they would rebuild their lives together. But deep down, Savannah braced herself for the possibility that the worst was yet to come.